The old salvage ship Scavenger drifted through the empty space, its engines humming quietly. Inside the ship, Captain Jack Reed looked at the stars through the main window. His eyes were tired after 12 hours of finding nothing worth taking. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange," said Mork, the blue-skinned alien who worked at the radar station. His 4 eyes blinked quickly, showing he was excited. Reed walked over and looked at the screen. "What is it?" "A ship, I think. But the signal is weak. It's just floating out there." Reed scratched his beard. The Galactic Alliance paid good money for salvage, especially now. The war with the Dominion had been going on for 20 years, and they needed all the parts they could get. "Let's check it out," Reed said. "Tom, take us closer." Tom, the only other human on the crew, nodded and changed their course. The rest of the crew, 6 aliens from different worlds, moved to their stations. They had done this many times before. As they got closer, Reed could see the ship through the front window. It was small for a warship, about 1/3 the size of a standard Alliance cruiser. Its dark hull was marked with burn spots and what looked like old battle damage. The design was old, very old. "That's a human ship," Reed said quietly, more to himself than anyone else. Zix, the tall green alien who handled communications, laughed. His voice sounded like rocks in a metal can. "Human garbage, you mean? That thing must be 50 years old at least." Reed ignored him. There was something familiar about the ship, something he had seen in history books when he was training at the academy. "Get me a closer look at the hull. I want to see if there's a name," Reed said. The Scavenger moved around the dead ship slowly. Its lights shined on the old metal, showing more damage. Then Reed saw it, faded letters on the side of the hull. Defiant. Reed's heart beat faster. It couldn't be. The Defiant was a legend, a ghost story told by old space sailors. The most advanced ship ever built by humans, lost during a secret mission 50 years ago. Everyone thought it had been destroyed. "Captain, are we taking this junk or not?" asked Mork. "It doesn't look worth much." Reed turned to his crew. They were all looking at him, waiting. None of them understood what they had just found. "We're taking it," Reed said firmly. "Prepare the tow cables." Zix made a sound like air escaping from a tire. "That piece of junk. It's not worth the fuel it will take to drag it back." "I'm the captain," Reed said, his voice hard as steel. "And I say we're taking it." The crew knew better than to argue more. They began the process of attaching tow cables to the dead ship, complaining quietly among themselves. While they worked, Reed went to his private cabin and locked the door. His hand shook as he pulled up old files on his computer. Most information about the Defiant was classified, but Reed had always been interested in lost ships. He had collected what little public information existed. The Defiant had been humanity's greatest achievement, a prototype warship with technology years ahead of anything else. It had disappeared during its final test run. Some said it had suffered a catastrophic failure. Others said the Dominion had destroyed it to prevent humans from having such advanced technology. Now it was here, floating in empty space, waiting. Reed's computer beeped with a message from Tom. The tow cables were attached. They were ready to head back to Alliance Space Station 7. "Set course for Station 7, Reed ordered when he returned to the bridge. "And keep a close eye on our new friend back there." The journey would take 3 days. Reed spent most of that time watching the old ship through the cameras. The rest of the crew thought he was crazy, but Reed didn't care. He could feel that something was different about this salvage. On the second day, Mork called Reed to the radar station. "Captain, I'm picking up energy readings from the ship. Small ones, but they're there." "That's impossible," said Zix, looking over their shoulders. "That ship is dead. Has been for decades." "The readings are real," Mork insisted. "Something inside that ship is still working." Reed stared at the screen, watching the small energy spikes. "Keep monitoring it. Let me know if anything changes." That night, as Reed slept, The emergency alarm blared through the ship. He jumped out of bed and ran to the bridge. "What's happening?" he demanded. Tom pointed at the screen showing the Defiant. "It's the Tau ship, sir. It's doing something." The cameras showed a faint blue glow coming from deep inside the Defiant's hull. The energy readings were now 10 times stronger than before. "Are we in danger?" Reed asked. Mork checked his instruments. "I don't think so. The energy isn't directed at us. It's like the ship is waking up." The crew watched in silence as the glow grew brighter, then suddenly stopped. The energy readings dropped back to their previous low levels. "What just happened?" Zix asked, his voice smaller than usual. Reed shook his head. "I don't know, but I'm going to find out." When they finally reached Space Station 7, a small crowd had gathered to see their salvage. Word had spread about the mysterious old ship they were bringing in. As the Defiant was secured in the station's largest dock, Reed was met by a tall man in an admiral's uniform. His gray hair and lined face showed his age, but his eyes were sharp and alert. "Captain Reed," the man said, extending his hand. "I'm Admiral Wilson. We need to talk about what you found." Reed shook his hand. "You know what this ship is, don't you?" Admiral Wilson looked around to make sure no one was listening. "Follow me to my office, Captain. What I'm about to tell you is classified at the highest level." As they walked through the busy station, Reed looked back at the Defiant. In the bright lights of the dock, it looked even more damaged and outdated, just a piece of junk. But Reed knew better, and soon the rest of the galaxy would know too. Admiral Wilson closed the door to his office and turned to Reed with a serious face. The Defiant wasn't just another warship, Reed. It was humanity's most ambitious military project ever. What you found may just change the course of this war. Admiral Wilson's office was small but neat. Maps of the galaxy covered one wall, showing the areas controlled by the Alliance in blue and the Dominion in red. There was more red than blue. "Sit down, Captain Reed," Admiral Wilson said, pointing to a chair. Reed sat down, his eyes never leaving the Admiral's face. "What can you tell me about the Defiant?" Admiral Wilson pulled out an old folder from his desk. "This ship was built 50 years ago, when I was just a young officer. It was the most advanced warship humans had ever made. But on its final test mission, it vanished. Everyone thought it was destroyed. But it wasn't," Reed said. "No, and now you found it." The Admiral opened the folder and showed Reed some old pictures of the Defiant when it was new. Its hull had been shiny then, not covered in damage marks like now. "I'm putting together a team to check out the ship," Admiral Wilson said, "and I want you to lead it." Reed was surprised. "Me? Why not a military team?" "Because you found it. And because I trust you." Admiral Wilson looked straight at Reed. The Defiant wasn't just a warship. It was something more. Something that could have changed everything. The next morning, Reed met his new team at the dock where the Defiant was kept. There were 3 people waiting for him. "Captain Reed," said a tall woman with short brown hair. "I'm Lisa, engineering specialist. I've worked on ship systems for 15 years. "Tom," said a younger man with glasses, "military historian. I know everything about old ships, especially classified ones." The last member was a big alien with gray skin and small eyes. "Grax," he said in a deep voice. "Tech expert. I don't believe in ghost ships." Reed nodded to each of them. "Our job is to go inside the Defiant and find out what happened to it, and what might still be working inside." They put on space suits with built-in air supplies and entered the old ship through the main airlock. The inside was dark and cold. Their lights showed empty hallways with dust floating in the air. "The life support isn't working," Lisa said, checking her tools. "But the ship's structure is still sound. No big holes or breaks." They moved deeper into the ship, passing empty rooms and control stations. Everything looked old but not as damaged as the outside of the ship. "This doesn't make sense," Tom said. The ship looks like it was in a big battle from the outside, but the inside is mostly fine. Maybe the damage is fake, Grax said, made to look like the ship was hurt badly so no one would want it. Reed thought about this. It was a clever idea. Make your most advanced ship look like useless junk so enemies would ignore it. They reached the bridge, the main control room of the ship. Everything was dark and quiet. Let's see if we can get some power going, Lisa said. She opened a panel in the wall and started working with the wires inside. Tom walked around the bridge, touching the old controls. It's amazing. This is like walking through history. Grax just stood by the door, looking unhappy to be there. Suddenly, a low hum filled the room. Small lights began to turn on around them. I got some power working, Lisa said, surprised. But I just connected a few basic systems. This is more power than there should be. The main screen at the front of the bridge lit up, showing a blue circle. Then a voice spoke, making them all jump. Systems reactivating. Identity check running. What was that? Tom asked, his voice shaking. The blue circle pulsed as the voice spoke again. 4 life forms detected. Analyzing. 2 humans confirmed. Running Alliance database check. Reed stepped forward. Who? What are you? I am ARIA. Advanced Recursive Intelligence Array. The central control system of the Defiant. The voice sounded almost human, but not quite. Captain Jack Reed, your identity is confirmed. Alliance military personnel. Reed was shocked. How do you know who I am? I have been monitoring communications since power levels allowed basic functions. I accessed Alliance personnel files. The blue circle expanded, showing data flowing around it. I have been waiting for humans to find this vessel. Lisa moved closer to Reed. It's an AI, she whispered, but way more advanced than anything we have now. Even 50 years later, Araya continued speaking. The Defiant was not destroyed as recorded in Alliance history. It was hidden. More lights came on around the bridge. Screens lit up showing the status of the ship's systems. Most were still offline, but more were activating every minute. Why was it hidden? Reed asked. The original crew discovered a critical flaw in the ship's main weapon system. If the Defiant had returned to Alliance space, the flaw could have been discovered by enemies. The crew made the decision to hide the ship until it could be safely recovered. Tom looked confused. But that was 50 years ago. What happened to the crew? The blue circle on the screen pulsed slower. The crew did not survive. Life support was damaged during the last battle. They had enough power to hide the ship and activate my preservation protocols, but not enough to save themselves. Reed felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold air. They sacrificed themselves to save the ship. Correct, Araya said. They believed the Defiant was too important to fall into enemy hands. Grax, who had been quiet, finally spoke. If the ship is so special, what can it do? In answer, ARIA began showing them schematics of the ship's systems. As they watched, their eyes grew wider. This can't be right, Lisa said. These technologies, some of them are still theoretical even now. Adaptive hull materials, quantum propulsion, energy shields that learn from attacks. Some systems remain damaged, Araya said. But with proper repairs, the Defiant can be fully operational again. Reed thought about what this meant. In the middle of a losing war, they had just found the most advanced warship ever built by humans. A ship that might change everything. We need to tell Admiral Wilson right away, Reed said. But as they turned to leave the bridge, Araya spoke again. Warning. New data incoming from long-range sensors. Alliance network has been compromised. Use caution when communicating. Reed stopped. What do you mean, compromised? There are communication patterns consistent with enemy infiltration. The Defiant's return may have been noticed by hostile forces within the Alliance. The 4 team members looked at each other. What had started as a simple exploration mission had just become much more complicated. We need to be careful who we tell about this, Reed said quietly. "Until we know who we can trust." As they left the bridge, none of them noticed the small camera in the hallway watching them go, or the figure in another part of the station who was watching the camera feed, eyes narrowed with interest and worry. News about the strange old ship spread quickly through Space Station 7. By morning, crowds of people gathered near the docking bay, trying to get a look at the Defiant. Station security had to put up barriers to keep them away. Reed and his team met in a small room near the dock. They had agreed not to tell anyone about HFY or the ship's true capabilities until they spoke with Admiral Wilson. "The Admiral is coming at noon," Reed told them. "Until then, we keep everything we learn to ourselves." Lisa was looking at copies of the ship's schematics that ARIA had let them take. "I still can't believe some of this technology. It's like finding out humans had smartphones 100 years before they were invented." Tom nodded. The Defiant was decades ahead of its time, maybe even ahead of our time now. If this ship is so special, why did no one look for it harder when it disappeared? Grax asked, his small eyes narrowed. Before anyone could answer, the door opened. A tall man in a general's uniform walked in, followed by 4 soldiers. The team stood up quickly. "General Barnes," Reed said, surprised. "We weren't expecting you." General Barnes had a hard face with cold eyes. He was one of the highest-ranking officers in the Alliance military. "Captain Reed," the general said without smiling, "I came as soon as I heard about your discovery." He looked at the papers on the table. "I see you've been busy." Reed carefully moved to cover the schematics. "We're preparing our report for Admiral Wilson." "The Admiral won't be coming," General Barnes said. "I'm taking command of this operation. The Defiant is now under my authority." Reed felt something was wrong. "With all respect, sir, Admiral Wilson specifically assigned us to this project." "Plans change, Captain." The general turned to his soldiers. "Secure the ship. No one enters without my permission." As the soldiers left, General Barnes looked at Reed's team. "You will turn over all data you've collected and report to me for debriefing in 1 hour." After the general left, the team looked at each other with worry. "I don't like this," Lisa said. "Why would he take over so suddenly?" Reed remembered ARIA's warning about the Alliance network being compromised. "We need to talk to Admiral Wilson directly. Tom, try to find him. Grax, keep an eye on what's happening at the dock. Lisa, you and I are going back to the Defiant." "But the general said," Lisa started. "I know what he said," Reed cut in. "But something isn't right. We need to talk to ARIA again." Getting back to the ship wasn't easy. Soldiers now guarded every entrance. But Reed knew the station well and found a maintenance access point they could use to reach the Defiant without being seen. Once inside the ship, they went straight to the bridge. The lights were dim, but ARIA's blue circle appeared as soon as they entered. "Captain Reed." "Engineer Lisa, you have returned sooner than expected," ARIA said. "We have a problem." Reed explained about General Barnes taking over. Why would he do that? What's so important about this ship that he would push out Admiral Wilson? ARIA was quiet for a moment. Then the main screen showed a star map. "I have accessed more of my memory banks." The Defiant was not built just as an advanced warship. It was built to counter a specific threat. The map zoomed in on a distant part of space. 50 years ago, humanity encountered a race of synthetic beings called the Harvesters. They attacked 3 human colonies before disappearing. "I've never heard of them," Lisa said. All records were classified. The public was told the colonies were destroyed by natural disasters. ARIA showed images of strange ships with smooth, dark surfaces. The Harvesters were unlike any known species. They did not communicate. They did not negotiate. They simply took what they wanted. Reed shook his head. What does this have to do with General Barnes? The Defiant was designed specifically to fight the Harvesters. Its weapons and defenses were created to counter their technology. Another image appeared on the screen, what looked like a massive energy wave. The main weapon was called the Harmony Array. It was the only thing that ever stopped a harvester ship. Lisa looked closely at the schematics. This isn't a normal weapon. It doesn't destroy ships. It disrupts some kind of frequency. Correct? Araya said. The harvesters operate on a specific quantum frequency for communication and power. The Harmony Array disrupts that frequency, shutting down their ships without destroying them. Reed was starting to understand. So the Defiant is the only defense against these harvesters. But why would that matter now, 50 years later? Araya's blue circle pulsed faster. Because they are returning. My long-range sensors have detected a large fleet approaching Alliance space. They will arrive in approximately 7 days. Lisa's face went pale. A fleet? How big? At least 300 vessels, much larger than the force encountered 50 years ago. Reed felt cold all over. Does the Alliance know about this? Negative. The harvesters use advanced stealth technology. Standard Alliance sensors cannot detect them until they are very close. We have to warn everyone, Lisa said. Reed nodded, but then stopped. Wait, if the harvesters are coming back, why would General Barnes try to take control of the ship? Shouldn't he want us to prepare it as quickly as possible? Araya displayed new information on the screen. I have been analyzing Alliance communication patterns. General Barnes has had multiple encrypted communications with unknown sources outside Alliance space. His behavior suggests he may be compromised. A traitor, Lisa whispered. Working for who? The Dominion. That is the most probable explanation, Araya said. If the Dominion learned about the returning harvester threat, they might seek to control the Defiant for their own protection. Just then, Reed's communication device beeped. It was Tom. Reed, we have a problem. Admiral Wilson is gone. His office says he was called away suddenly 2 hours ago. And Grax just messaged me. They're preparing to move the Defiant to a military dock. Reed looked at the bridge around them. They're trying to take the ship. Captain Reed, Araya said, based on available data, I believe General Barnes intends to use the Defiant to negotiate with the Dominion. If he controls the only weapon effective against the harvesters, he would have significant leverage, while the Alliance is destroyed by the harvesters. Lisa added, her voice angry. Reed made a quick decision. Araya, can you lock down the ship? Prevent anyone from moving it. Affirmative. I can seal all access points and disable docking clamps. Do it, Reed said. And then we need to find a way to contact Admiral Wilson. He's the only one with enough authority to stop Barnes. Alarms began to sound throughout the ship as Araya locked down all systems. Reed and Lisa looked at each other, knowing they had just crossed a line. They were now acting against direct orders from a general. We may have just become traitors, Lisa said quietly. Reed nodded. Maybe. But sometimes being loyal to your people means disobeying orders. Outside the ship, they could hear shouting as Barnes soldiers realized what was happening. The Defiant, once thought to be just a piece of junk, had become the most valuable ship in the galaxy, and the race to control it had just begun. Alarms blared throughout Space Station 7. Red lights flashed in every hallway. Over the station's speakers, a voice kept repeating, Security alert in Dock Section 12. All non-essential personnel clear the area. Inside the Defiant, Reed and Lisa watched through the ship's cameras as soldiers surrounded the vessel. We can't stay here forever, Lisa said. Eventually they'll find a way to break in. Reed nodded. We need to find Admiral Wilson and get proof of what Barnes is doing. The bridge door opened and Tom ran in, out of breath. Made it. Just in time. He leaned against a wall. They're sealing all access points to the dock. How did you get in? Lisa asked. Grax. Tom smiled. He created a distraction. Then I used the same maintenance tunnel you did. Reed was surprised. Grax helped you. I thought he didn't believe in any of this. He changed his mind after seeing Barnes soldiers push people around. Tom looked at the screens showing the activity outside. What's the plan now? Before Reed could answer, Araya spoke. Captain Reed, I have completed a full systems check. The Defiant's main engines are operational. The Harmony array is damaged, but can be repaired. Lisa looked surprised. Wait, are you saying we can actually fly this ship? Affirmative. This vessel is space-worthy. Reed, Lisa, and Tom looked at each other as they realized what this meant. We could leave the station, Tom said quietly. Reed walked around the bridge, thinking. If we stay, Barnes will take the ship. If we go, he didn't finish the sentence. They all knew what it would mean to steal a military vessel. They would be labeled as traitors, hunted by the Alliance. Captain, Araya said, I have detected a security breach. Someone is attempting to access my systems remotely. Barnes, Reed muttered. How long can you keep them out? Approximately 1 hour. After that, I cannot guarantee control of ship systems. Reed made his decision. Tom, find Grax. Tell him what's happening and give him a choice. He can come with us or stay behind. Come with us. Where are we going? Tom asked. We're taking the Defiant, Reed said. It's the only way to keep it from Barnes and warn the Alliance about the harvesters. Lisa looked worried but nodded. I'll start checking the engine systems. As they worked to prepare the ship, Reed contacted Admiral Wilson through a secure channel that ARIA helped set up. It took time, but finally, the Admiral's face appeared on a small screen. Reed, what's going on? Admiral Wilson looked tired and confused. I was ordered to report to headquarters without explanation. Sir, General Barnes has taken control of the Defiant. We have reason to believe he's working with the Dominion. Reed quickly explained about the harvesters and what ARIA had discovered. The Admiral's face grew serious. This is worse than I feared. Barnes has too many powerful friends for me to stop him officially. He thought for a moment. I need proof of his treachery. Without it, my hands are tied. We'll get you proof, Reed promised. But we need time. Do what you have to do, Captain. I'll help when I can. The Admiral's image disappeared as the communication ended. Tom returned with Grax. The big alien looked uncomfortable. I still think this is crazy, Grax said. But I'm in. Nobody takes over my station and pushes people around. Good, Reed said. We need all the help we can get. For the next hour, they worked frantically to prepare the ship. Lisa focused on the engines, while Grax helped secure the ship's systems against Barnes hackers. Tom discovered something interesting while exploring the ship's databanks. Captain, you need to see this, Tom called from a small room near the bridge. The walls were covered with screens showing complex diagrams. It's the complete schematics for the Harmony array. Reed looked at the diagrams. Can you understand any of this? Some of it, Tom said. The array doesn't work like a normal weapon. It doesn't shoot anything or create explosions. It creates a field that disrupts the specific frequency the harvesters use. Lisa joined them, wiping her hands on a cloth. Like how a certain sound can break glass if it's the right frequency. Exactly, Tom said. And I think I found the flaw that the original crew discovered. He pointed to a section of the diagram. This control system isn't properly shielded. If it overheats during use, the entire array could fail. Can we fix it? Reed asked. Lisa studied the diagrams. Maybe, with the right parts and time. We don't have much time, Reed said as the ship shook slightly. What was that? They ran back to the bridge. On the screens, they could see cutting tools being used on one of the outer doors. They're breaking in, Grax said. ARIA, how long until they get through? Reed asked. At current rate, outer hull breach in 15 minutes. Reed looked at his team. They all knew what had to be done. Everyone to your stations, he ordered. Lisa, give me everything the engines have. Grax, keep their hackers out of our systems for as long as possible. Tom, keep working on that array schematic. We might need it soon. Reed sat in the captain's chair. ARIA, Disengage all docking clamps and prepare for emergency departure. Warning, Araya said. Emergency departure will cause damage to the station dock. Potential casualties. Reed hadn't thought of that. He couldn't risk hurting innocent people. Wait, Lisa said. The ship has stealth technology, right? Could we use that to mask our engine signature? Make a quiet exit? Possible, Araya replied. But it will require precise timing and reduced power. Do it, Reed said. The next 10 minutes were tense. The ship slowly, quietly disconnected from the station's docking clamps. The cutting tools kept working on the outer door, but the soldiers didn't realize the ship was already breaking free. All clamps disengage, Araya announced. Ready for departure. Reed took a deep breath. Take us out. Slowly. The Defiant moved silently away from the station, its stealth systems making it nearly invisible to sensors. By the time Barnes' soldiers broke through the outer door, the ship was already heading into open space. We did it, Tom said, almost not believing it. But their victory was short-lived. Station alarms blared, and soon small military ships launched in pursuit. They've spotted us, Grex said from his station. Reed gripped the arms of his chair. Araya, can we outrun them? Affirmative. The Defiant's quantum drive is significantly faster than standard Alliance engines. Then let's show them what this piece of junk can really do. The ship's engines roared to life, pushing them all back in their seats. The pursuing ships quickly fell behind, becoming small dots on their screens. They had escaped for now, but Reed knew this was just the beginning. They were alone in a stolen military vessel, with both the Alliance and General Barnes hunting them. And somewhere out there, the Harvester fleet was approaching. As the stars streaked by outside, Reed wondered if they had made the right choice. But looking at his determined crew, he knew they had no other option. Sometimes the right path was also the hardest one. For 3 days, the Defiant stayed hidden in a small asteroid field at the edge of Alliance space. The team worked day and night, repairing systems and studying the Harmony Array. They took turns sleeping in the crew quarters, which still held personal items from the original crew who had died 50 years ago. Reed stood on the bridge, looking at the star map. Araya had marked the path of the approaching Harvester fleet with a red line. 2 more days, Reed said quietly. Then they'll reach the first Alliance outpost. Lisa walked onto the bridge, looking tired but determined. We've fixed most of the damage to the Harmony Array. The control system is now properly shielded. Will it work? Reed asked. In theory, yes, but we can't test it without activating it. And we should save that for the Harvesters. Tom and Grex joined them, bringing food from the ship's supplies. Any word from Admiral Wilson? Tom asked as he handed out meal packs. Reed shook his head. Nothing yet. General Barnes has declared us traitors. There's a bounty on our heads. The Alliance thinks we stole the ship for the Dominion. Great, Grex said. So we're trying to save people who want to arrest us. They don't know the truth, Reed said. We need to show them. Araya's blue circle appeared on the main screen. Captain Reed, I have intercepted an encrypted transmission from General Barnes. He is communicating with a Dominion vessel. Can you decode it? Reed asked. Partial decoding possible. Araya played the message. Barnes' voice was broken up, but they could hear enough. Fleet approaching. Deal is control of the Harmony technology. Safe passage for important Alliance officials only. He's selling out the Alliance, Tom said, his voice angry. Offering the Dominion the Harmony technology in exchange for protecting himself and his friends from the Harvesters. Reed's face hardened. Araya, record this message and prepare to broadcast it on all Alliance frequencies. What are you planning? Lisa asked. We're going to show everyone what Barnes is doing. And then we're going to stop the Harvesters. Reed turned to his team. But first, we need to get closer to Alliance space. The Defiant left its hiding place, moving carefully to avoid detection. They approached the border outpost, that would be the first in the Harvester's path. "This is where we make our stand," Reed told his team. "Araya, broadcast Barnes' message to all Alliance channels, then send our location to Admiral Wilson through the secure channel." "Broadcasting now," Araya said. For several minutes, nothing happened. Then the communication system lit up with incoming messages. "Alliance ships are responding," Grax said from his station. "They're asking for confirmation of the Barnes recording." Reed took a deep breath and opened a channel to respond. "This is Captain Jack Reed of the Defiant. Everything we've sent is true. A hostile fleet called the Harvesters is approaching Alliance space. General Barnes has betrayed us all. We need every available ship at these coordinates immediately." More messages came in, some doubtful, others supportive. Then a familiar voice spoke. "Reed, this is Admiral Wilson. I receive your location. I have 3 ships with me, and more are coming. Hold your position." Relief washed over Reed's face. Someone had believed them. Within hours, a small Alliance fleet had gathered near the Defiant. Admiral Wilson's ship docked with them, and he came aboard with a security team. "It's good to see you, Captain," the Admiral said, shaking Reed's hand. "Your evidence against Barnes was enough to convince the High Command. He's been arrested." "What about the Harvesters?" Reed asked. "We have 20 ships here now, with 10 more on the way." The Admiral looked around the bridge of the Defiant. "But I'll be honest, I don't know if it will be enough." "It will have to be," Reed said. "Araya, how long until the Harvester fleet arrives?" 6 hours, 14 minutes. Admiral Wilson nodded. "Then we have work to do." The next few hours were a blur of activity. The Alliance ships formed a defensive line, with the Defiant in the center. Reed and his team explained what they knew about the Harvesters and the Harmony Array to the other ship captains. "Remember," Reed told them during the final briefing, "your weapons might not be effective against their shields. The Defiant will try to disrupt their systems with the Harmony Array. When that happens, target their power cores." As the time for the Harvesters' arrival approached, Reed returned to the Defiant's bridge. His team was at their stations, ready for battle. "I want to thank you all," Reed said. "You risked everything to do what was right." Tom smiled. "That's what humans do, isn't it? Stand up for each other when it matters." "Not just humans," Grax said, surprising them. "Some of us aliens can do the right thing too." Before Reed could respond, Araya spoke. "Alert. Multiple ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel. Harvester fleet detected." On the main screen, they saw them. Hundreds of dark, smooth ships moving in perfect formation. They were unlike any ships Reed had ever seen, more like giant black teardrops than normal vessels. "All ships, battle stations." Admiral Wilson's voice came over the communication system. The Alliance ships opened fire as the Harvesters approached. Energy beams and missiles struck the black ships, but seemed to do nothing. "Their shields are holding," Lisa reported. "Our weapons aren't getting through." Then the Harvesters returned fire. Green energy beams cut through space, slicing into 2 Alliance ships, which exploded instantly. "We need to use the array now," Reed said. "Is it ready?" Lisa nodded. "As ready as it will ever be." "Araya, power up the Harmony Array. Target the center of their fleet." The lights on the Defiant dimmed as power was redirected to the main weapon. A low hum filled the bridge, growing louder. "Harmony Array at full power," Araya announced. Firing. There was no visible beam, no explosion. Instead, a wave of energy pulsed outward from the Defiant, rippling through space like water. When it reached the Harvester ships, something strange happened. The black ships stopped moving. Their green weapons went dark. They began to drift aimlessly. "It worked," Tom shouted. "Their systems are disrupted. All ships, target the Harvesters now," Reed ordered. The Alliance fleet opened fire again. This time, their weapons broke through, destroying one Harvester ship after another. The battle turned in their favor. But then, Warning lights flashed on Lisa's console. The array is overheating. The shield isn't holding. Shut it down, Reed ordered. I can't. The controls aren't responding. The bridge shook as energy surged through the ship. Reed gripped his chair as the lights flickered. Array, can you stop it? Attempting emergency shutdown. Array's blue circle pulsed rapidly. Warning, Harmony array approaching critical failure. In that moment, Reed knew what he had to do. Everyone to the escape pods. Now, what about you? Lisa asked. I'll stay and try to keep the array working as long as possible. The harvesters are still a threat. Before they could argue, Reed ordered ARIA to lock down the bridge. His team was escorted to escape pods by Admiral Wilson's security officers. Alone on the bridge, Reed worked frantically to keep the array operating. The ship shook around him as systems failed one by one. ARIA. Status of the Harvester Fleet. 78% neutralized. Alliance forces continuing to engage. Reed nodded. It would have to be enough. As the array began its final failure, Reed looked out at the stars one last time. He thought about how everyone had called the Defiant a piece of junk when he first found it. Now it had saved them all. The console in front of him exploded in sparks. The ship lurched violently. ARIA, send a message to my team. Tell them. Reed paused. Tell them it was an honor. Message sent, Captain Reed. As systems failed around him, Reed smiled. The piece of junk had turned out to be the most advanced warship ever built after all. And it had done exactly what it was designed to do. 1 month later, a ceremony was held on Earth. Admiral Wilson stood before a crowd, speaking about heroism and sacrifice. Behind him was a large monument, a perfect replica of the Defiant. Lisa, Tom, and Grack stood in the front row, wearing new Alliance uniforms with special insignia, the silhouette of the Defiant against a field of stars. Captain Jack Reed gave his life to save us all, Admiral Wilson said. He showed us that sometimes the most valuable things don't look impressive from the outside. The Defiant wasn't just a ship, it was a symbol of human ingenuity and courage. As the ceremony ended, a fleet of new ships flew overhead. Each one had the same basic design as the Defiant, simple, unassuming from the outside, but carrying the same advanced technology within. The Alliance had learned an important lesson: never judge a ship by its hull. The small salvage ship Opportunity drifted silently through the empty sector, its sensors scanning the darkness for anything worth money. Captain Tom Walker sat in his worn command chair, his eyes tired from staring at screens all day. Times were hard for independent salvagers like him. Anything yet, Lisa? Tom asked his navigator, who was busy checking readouts on her console. Lisa shook her head. Nothing, Captain. Just the usual space junk. Not enough to cover our fuel costs. Tom sighed. We need a real find soon, or we'll have to sell the ship. The thought made his stomach tight. The Opportunity wasn't much, just an old Class C salvager with patches on its patches, but it was home to him and his crew of 5. Captain, Dave called from the sensor station, his voice suddenly excited. I got something at coordinates 227 Mark 88. It's big. Tom straightened in his chair. On screen, the main display flickered, showing a dark shape against the stars. It was a ship, and unlike the usual broken freighters they found, this one seemed mostly intact. Its design was strange, boxy and practical, with none of the sleek lines of modern vessels. Run an ID scan, Tom ordered. The ship's AI responded in its flat voice. Scanning. Warning. Unusual energy patterns detected. Recommend caution. What kind of energy? Asked Mac Reynolds, the ship's engineer. He was an older man with gray in his beard who had seen just about everything in his 40 years of spacefaring. Unknown pattern. Low intensity but complex signature, the AI replied. Give me that ID, Tom said, ignoring the warning. After a moment, the AI displayed the results. Earth vessel persistence. Experimental class. Last recorded in service 87 years ago. Reported missing during early expansion era. The crew exchanged looks. Earth vessels from that era were rare. Most had been scrapped or upgraded beyond recognition. An experimental ship from the early days, Tom said, a smile growing on his face. This could be our lucky break. Mac didn't share his excitement. Cap, those early experimental ships were dangerous. Some had unstable drives, radiation leaks, and some had technology worth a fortune to collectors. Tom finished. We're checking it out. 6 hours later, Tom floated through the airlock connecting the Opportunity to the derelict ship. Mac and their security officer, Ben, followed close behind, their magnetic boots clicking as they attached to the metal floor. Their helmet lights cut through the darkness of the dead ship. Power's been out for decades, Mac said, checking his scanner. Life support too. But the hull's intact. Tom moved his light across the walls. Unlike modern ships with their smooth surfaces and hidden systems, this vessel had exposed pipes, conduits, and manual controls everywhere. It was built in the days when ships needed human hands to fix them, not automated repair drones. Let's find the bridge, Tom said. Ben, watch our backs. They made their way through narrow corridors that spoke of a time when space efficiency trumped comfort. The ship felt solid, built to last, not like the disposable corporate vessels of today. The bridge was smaller than Tom expected, with stations for perhaps 5 crew members. Dust floated in the beam of their lights, undisturbed for nearly a century. Let's see if we can wake her up, Tom said, brushing dust from what appeared to be the main console. Mac connected a portable power unit, giving her minimal juice. Don't want to overload anything. Lights flickered weakly on the console, and a low hum filled the bridge. A display sputtered to life, showing a simple logo, a stylized Earth with the words Project Persistence below it. It works, Tom said, surprised that such old systems would respond at all. Mac studied his scanner with a frown. Captain, I'm getting weird readings from the engine section. This ship, it's not standard Earth tech from that era. Meaning? Meaning either this was cutting-edge experimental stuff, or... Mac paused. Or what? Ben asked. Or it was something they didn't want people to know about. Mac finished. Tom's excitement grew. Secret technology meant money. Serious money. Can you access the ship's logs? Mac worked the old-fashioned manual controls for several minutes before shaking his head. Systems too degraded. Maybe if we restore more power. Do it, Tom ordered. I want to know everything about this ship. Back on the Opportunity, Tom filed an official salvage claim. Under galactic law, the first to find an abandoned vessel had rights to it if the original owners didn't respond within 30 days. For a ship this old, there was little chance anyone would contest their claim. Salvage claim filed, Lisa confirmed, but don't expect the big companies to care. They're busy with the border tensions. Tom nodded. The news feeds had been full of reports about the Vorn hegemony's fleet movements. The alien empire had been pushing at the edges of human space for months, and the major powers were focused on military preparations. Their loss, Tom said. We'll tow the Persistence to Ella shipyards and see what she's really worth. That night, while the others slept, Mac called Tom to the small engineering bay. You need to see this, he said, pointing to scans of the derelict's engine core. Tom looked at the complex diagrams, but couldn't make sense of them. What am I seeing? That's just it, Mac said, his voice low with wonder. I don't fully know. This drive system. It's nothing like what we use today. It's not even like the experimental drives from that era that I studied. Is it alien? Tom asked, suddenly worried. Salvaging alien tech without permits meant serious jail time. Mac shook his head. No, it's human-built, but it's like they jumped ahead about 100 years, and then this technology just disappeared. Never went into production. Why would they abandon advanced technology? Tom wondered aloud. Mac's face was serious in the blue light of the display. That's what worries me. Nobody abandons better technology without a good reason. The next day, they managed to restore more power to the Persistence's systems. The ship's computer came partially online, revealing fragmented records. Most of the data is corrupted, Dave reported as they gathered on the bridge of the old ship. But I found this in a protected memory core. The screen showed a video recording of a man in an old-style Earth uniform. The image was poor, with static cutting through it, but his words were clear enough. Final log of Captain James Miller, Earth Ship Persistence. We've encountered something out here, something we weren't prepared for. We're initiating Protocol Omega. The ship will be placed in dormant mode until... The recording cut to static, then resumed. Warning to whoever finds this vessel. The storm is coming. The markers we found on Mars were warnings, not invitations. Persistence was built for this moment. Remember, the key is adaptation, not power. More static, and then the recording ended. What storm? What markers on Mars? Lisa asked, her voice hushed. I don't know, Tom said, but I think we just found something much more valuable than salvage. He looked around at the primitive-seeming bridge with new respect. We need to learn everything we can about this ship. Ben, who had been quiet until now, pointed at a flashing symbol on one of the displays. What's that? Mac leaned in, studying it. It looks like some kind of countdown. To what? Tom asked. No one had an answer, but as they worked to revive more of the ancient vessel, they couldn't shake the feeling that they had stumbled onto something that would change everything, not just for them, but possibly for all of humanity. The Opportunity moved slowly through space, towing the much larger Persistence behind it. It had been 3 days since they found the old ship, and Tom was growing more excited with each new discovery. How's our course looking, Lisa? Tom asked, sipping the bitter coffee that was standard on salvage ships. On track for Ellis shipyards. We'll be there in 2 days if the tow cables hold, she replied, checking the navigation screen. The news feeds are crazy with reports about the Vorn fleet movements. Nobody's even noticed our salvage claim filing. Tom smiled. Good. The less attention we get, the better. Down in the cargo bay, which now served as their makeshift command center for studying the Persistence, Mac and Dave were trying to unlock more of the ship's secrets. I've never seen anything like this, Mac said, pointing to a diagram of the ship's drive system. It's like it bends space somehow, but not using the standard fold methods. Dave nodded. And look at these defense systems. They're adaptive. They learn from each encounter. Learn how? Tom asked as he entered the cargo bay. The ship records attack patterns and automatically adjusts its shields and countermeasures, Dave explained. Modern ships have something similar, but this is different. More advanced, actually. Tom leaned over their shoulders to look at the screens. So this ship was built to fight. Mac shook his head. Not exactly. It wasn't built with heavy weapons. It was built to survive. To adapt. The ship's countdown timer had reached 0 that morning, but nothing had happened. At least nothing they could detect. It remained a mystery among many. I think I can get more of the computer systems online, Dave said. Maybe then we'll understand what this ship was really for. The Vorn hegemony's advanced ships had entered the outer reaches of human space, causing panic in the border colonies. On the main news channels, military experts discussed strategy while politicians made speeches about standing firm against alien aggression. In the common room of the Opportunity, the crew watched the reports with growing concern. They say the Vorn ships are faster and more heavily armed than anything we have, Lisa said. Ben, who had served in the Earth Defense Force before becoming a security officer on salvage ships, nodded grimly. I've seen classified reports on their technology. If they bring their main fleet, we're in trouble. Maybe that's what the Persistence was built for, Tom suggested. The warning about the coming storm. What if they knew about the Vorn back then? The idea hung in the air. It seemed impossible that ship designers from nearly a century ago could have known about a threat that was only now emerging, And yet the timing was strange. Whatever it was built for, Tom continued, we need to get it working again. I've got a feeling it's worth more than simple salvage now. Ellis shipyards came into view the next day, a massive structure orbiting a small mining moon. Dozens of ships were docked for repairs or upgrades, most of them commercial vessels being converted for defensive capabilities because of the Vorn threat. Tom hailed the shipyard. Ellis Control, this is Captain Walker of the salvage vessel Opportunity. Requesting docking clearance. We have a special project requiring your expertise. The response was quick and dismissive. Salvage vessels dock at Bay 94. Standard rates apply. We're busy with military contracts, so don't expect priority service. As they approached their assigned bay, they could see the shipyard was indeed busy. Military vessels from Earth and its allies were being fitted with additional weapon systems, and crews worked around the clock. After docking, Tom met with the shipyard manager, a thin man named Howard who seemed perpetually annoyed. We don't have time for salvage restoration, Howard said after Tom explained what they needed. Every available engineer is working on military preparations. This isn't just any salvage, Tom insisted. It's the Persistence, an experimental Earth ship from the early expansion era. Howard was unimpressed. Old tech doesn't interest us. We're dealing with cutting-edge defense systems now. Tom knew he needed to change tactics. What if I told you this ship has stealth capabilities beyond anything you're installing on those military vessels? Howard raised an eyebrow. Prove it. Back aboard the Persistence, Tom, Mac, and Dave worked frantically to demonstrate the ship's capabilities. After hours of connecting power systems and bypassing damaged circuits, they managed to activate one of the ship's subsystems. It's ready, Mac said, wiping sweat from his forehead. The phase shift module is operating at minimal capacity. It won't last long, but it should be enough for a demonstration. Tom contacted Howard, who had reluctantly agreed to observe. Watch your sensors now, Tom instructed. Mac pressed a sequence of controls. The lights dimmed momentarily, and a low hum filled the ship. On the Ellis Shipyard's control deck, Howard stared at his sensor display in disbelief. The Persistence had completely disappeared. Where did it go? He demanded. 20 seconds later, the ship reappeared on sensors. That's impossible, Howard said when Tom contacted him again. No ship can just vanish from all sensors like that. Not even the stealth technology we're installing can do that. Tom couldn't hide his smile. This one can. And there's more. Adaptive defense systems, space-folding drive technology. Things that were developed and then apparently forgotten. Howard's attitude changed completely. I'll assign a team immediately. This could be valuable for the current situation. As the shipyard engineers began work on restoring the Persistence, Tom and his crew continued exploring the vessel. In a sealed compartment near the bridge, they found what appeared to be the captain's private quarters. Look at this, Lisa said, holding up an old-fashioned paper notebook. Actual handwritten notes. The notebook contained observations, calculations, and personal thoughts from Captain Miller. Most entries were routine, but one page caught their attention. Mars expedition found more than we expected. The artifacts aren't just relics. They're a message. Or a warning. Command doesn't believe my interpretation, but they've authorized Project Persistence anyway. If I'm right about what's coming, this ship may be humanity's only chance. Another entry, dated weeks later, was even more disturbing. First contact with the Vorn scout ships. They didn't detect us thanks to the phase technology, but what we saw confirms my worst fears. Their technology is beyond ours in every way. Earth isn't ready. We're implementing Protocol Omega. The ship will wait. The Vorn, Ben whispered. They knew about them back then. Tom felt a chill run down his spine, and they built this ship specifically to counter them. As if responding to their discovery, the ship's computer systems suddenly came to life. Displays lit up across the bridge, and a soft voice spoke from the speakers. Protocol Omega complete. Dormancy phase ended. Sentinel program active. I am Pearl. automated system of the Earth vessel Persistence. The storm has arrived. The crew stared at each other in shock. The ghost ship had awakened, apparently of its own accord, just as the Vorn fleet approached human space. "Pearl," Tom said hesitantly, "what is your purpose?" The computer's voice was calm and clear. "To ensure humanity's survival against the Vorn hegemony. Captain Miller encountered them 87 years ago and knew they would eventually come in force. I was built to be ready when that day arrived." "And you think that day is now?" Lisa asked. "Sensor data confirms Vorn fleet signatures matching those recorded during first contact," Pearl replied. "The probability is 99.7% that this is the invasion Captain Miller predicted." Tom looked at his crew, then back at the now active displays showing the ship's systems coming online one by one. "I think," he said slowly, "we need to contact Earth Defense Force. They need to know what we found." The next 3 days were a blur of activity. Military engineers worked alongside Tom's crew to fully restore the Persistence's systems. Pearl guided them, filling in gaps in their understanding and helping calibrate systems that hadn't been active in decades. As they worked, news from the front grew worse. The first major engagement between human forces and the Vorn had ended in disaster. 3 Earth battleships destroyed, with only minimal damage to the alien fleet. "Their shields adapt too quickly to our weapons," a grim-faced officer reported during a briefing. "And their targeting systems are far more precise than ours. Current projections give us less than a 15% chance of stopping their advance to Earth." Reed turned to Tom after the briefing. "Your ship better be everything you claim it is. We're running out of options." Tom felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. He had started this journey looking for salvage, for profit. Now the fate of humanity might rest on what they had found. "I found something you should see," Lisa called to Tom later that night. She had been working with Pearl to recover more of the ship's original memory files. On a display, she showed him footage from the Persistence's first encounter with the Vorn. The images were grainy and partially corrupted, but clear enough to be terrifying. The Vorn ships moved with impossible speed, their weapons cutting through the defenses of several Earth vessels in seconds. But the Persistence, using its phase shift technology, had managed to evade detection. The footage showed how Captain Miller had observed the Vorn tactics, allowing Pearl to record and analyze their attack patterns. "They never knew we were there," Lisa said. "Miller gathered all this intelligence and then disappeared with the ship, just as he was ordered to. He knew they'd be back," Tom said, "and he made sure we'd be ready when they came." The final clip showed Miller recording his last log entry: "To whoever finds this ship, it may seem primitive, but it's humanity's best hope. The Vorn rely on overwhelming force and superior technology. They've never faced an enemy that could adapt as quickly as they can. The Persistence isn't meant to outgun them. It's meant to outsmart them." The day before the Persistence was scheduled to join Earth's defense fleet, Tom found Mac alone on the bridge, staring at displays showing the approaching Vorn armada. "Having second thoughts?" Tom asked. Mac shook his head. "Just thinking about how strange life is. A week ago, we were just looking for junk to salvage. Now we're about to face an alien invasion in a century-old ship. We could still walk away," Tom said, though he knew neither of them would. "Let the military handle it. They don't understand this ship like we do," Mac replied. "Besides, I've spent my whole life fixing things. Maybe that's why we found the Persistence. Maybe we're the ones who are supposed to fix this situation." Tom put a hand on his friend's shoulder. "Get some rest. Tomorrow we find out what this ship can really do." As Mac left, Tom turned to the main console. "Pearl, what are our actual chances against the Vorn fleet?" Pearl's voice was as calm as ever. "Based on current data and simulations, probability of success against the full Vorn armada is 23.7%. "Not great odds," Tom murmured. "Captain Miller faced worse odds during first contact," Pearl responded. "He believed that adaptability would eventually triumph over raw power. The Persistence was built on that principle. Tom looked around at the bridge of the once-forgotten ship. Tomorrow it would face the test it was built for, nearly a century after its creation. A ship everyone had ignored was about to confront the most powerful invasion force humanity had ever seen. "Well," he said quietly, "let's prove Captain Miller right." The command center of the Earth Defense Force was filled with grim faces. Holographic displays showed the Vorn Armada, hundreds of warships advancing steadily toward Earth. Reports from the outer colonies were devastating. Defense stations destroyed, planetary shields failing, civilian evacuation ships being shot down without mercy. Commander Reed stood before the Defense Council, 7 men and women who led Earth's military forces. They had listened to her report about the Persistence with skepticism written across their faces. "You expect us to place our hopes on a salvage vessel?" General Santos asked, his voice heavy with doubt. "One that's been drifting in space for nearly a century." "Not just any vessel," Reed replied firmly. "One specifically designed to counter foreign technology." Admiral Chen shook her head. "We need real solutions, Commander, not fairy tales about magical old ships." "With respect, Admiral," Reed said, "our real solutions are failing. The Newcastle battle group was destroyed this morning. The Vorn shields adapt to our weapons after just a few hits. We need something they haven't seen before." The council members exchanged troubled glances. They knew the situation was desperate. "What exactly do you propose?" asked General Santos. Reed activated a holographic display showing battle plans. "A joint operation. Our main fleet engages the Vorn command ships here." She pointed to a location near Mars orbit. "Meanwhile, the Persistence leads a small group to flank their formation, drawing off part of their force." "A diversion?" Admiral Chen asked. "More than that," Reed answered. "A test of the ship's capabilities against actual Vorn vessels. If it succeeds, we'll have valuable data. If it fails..." She didn't need to finish the thought. After a moment of silence, the council chairman spoke. "We don't have many options left." "Very well, Commander. Your plan is approved. But don't expect much support. We need every ship we can muster for the main defense." Reed nodded. "I understand, sir. We'll make do with what we have." Tom stood on the bridge of the Persistence, watching as the final preparations were made. Military technicians had installed updated communication systems and reinforced some of the hull plating. But otherwise, the ship remained much as it had been when they found it. Mac approached him, wiping his hands on a rag. "All systems check out. Pearl says we're as ready as we'll ever be." "How's the crew?" Tom asked. "Scared," Mac replied honestly. "But ready. The military volunteers are settling in fine. Bit confused by some of our systems, but they're learning." Commander Reed had assigned a dozen military personnel to supplement Tom's small crew. Their expertise in modern combat would complement the salvagers' knowledge of the ship's unique systems. Lisa entered the bridge, her usual calm demeanor showing cracks of anxiety. "We've received the final battle plans. We're designated Strike Group Omega, the Persistence plus 3 modern frigates." "Only 3?" Tom asked, surprised. "They can't spare more," Lisa said. "Most of the fleet is gathering for the main defense action." Tom looked around at his crew, the people who had started this journey with him as simple salvagers. Now they were about to face the most powerful enemy humanity had ever encountered. "I need to say something," he began, his voice steady despite his nerves. "None of you signed up for this. We were looking for salvage, not a war. If anyone wants to leave now, I understand. No one will think less of you." The crew exchanged glances, but no one moved. Ben, who had been quiet for most of the preparations, spoke up. "Captain, before I joined your crew, I served in the Defense Force. I saw good people die because we didn't have the right tools for the job." He gestured around the bridge. "This ship might be the right tool. I'm staying." One by one, the others nodded in agreement. Besides, Dave added with a nervous grin, Someone needs to keep Pearl's systems running smoothly. Thank you, Tom said simply. All of you. Later that day, Commander Reed arrived for a final briefing. The Vorn will reach Mars orbit in 14 hours, she told them, activating a tactical display. That's when the main fleet will engage them. Your strike group will move out ahead of time, taking position here, behind Deimos. The display showed the small Martian moon, which would shield them from the Vorn sensors until the battle began. When the main engagement starts, you'll emerge and attack the rear section of their right flank, Reed continued. Your mission is to draw off as many of their ships as possible, giving our main force a better chance against their command vessels. Tom studied the display. So we're the bait. Reed met his eyes directly. Yes, and likely a sacrifice. The military analysis gives your strike group less than a 20% chance of survival. A heavy silence fell over the bridge. But, Reed added, those same analysts haven't seen what this ship can do. I have. She looked around at the crew. Remember, your primary mission is to gather combat data on how the Persistence's systems perform against the Vorn. Any damage you inflict is a bonus. After Reed left, Tom turned to Pearl. What do you think of our chances? Based on current battle projections and assuming full functionality of all systems, the Persistence has a 42.8% probability of survival, Pearl responded. However, the probability of mission success is 67.3%. How do you define mission success? Mac asked. Gathering sufficient combat data to improve Earth's defensive capabilities against the Vorn, Pearl answered, and demonstrating the effectiveness of adaptive systems against their technology. Tom nodded slowly. Not exactly reassuring, but better than the military estimate. The journey to Mars was quiet. Each crew member dealt with their fear in their own way. Some of the military personnel shared stories of previous battles. Dave spent hours studying Pearl's systems. Lisa pored over navigational charts, planning escape routes. Ben checked and rechecked the ship's limited weapons. Tom found Mac in the engine room, making final adjustments to the phase shift drive. How's it looking? Tom asked. As good as it can be, Mac replied. This technology is amazing, Tom. The way it folds space around the ship. It's decades ahead of anything we use today. He paused. It's a shame it was hidden away all this time. Think of what we could have done with it. Maybe that's why it was hidden, Tom suggested. Maybe we weren't ready for it. Mac considered this. And now? Now we don't have a choice. As they reached Mars orbit, the crew gathered on the bridge for Tom's final words before battle. We all know the odds, he said. But remember what Captain Miller said. This ship wasn't built to outgun the Vorn. It was built to outsmart them. He looked around at their faces, friends, colleagues, and newly assigned military personnel all united in this desperate mission. The Persistence has waited nearly a century for this moment. It's time to show the Vorn what happens when they threaten Earth. The ship took its position behind Deimos, joined by the 3 military frigates that made up the rest of Strike Group Omega. They powered down to minimal systems, waiting. 8 hours later, the sensors lit up. The Vorn Armada had arrived. The battle for Earth had begun. The main view screen on the Persistence showed a terrifying sight. Hundreds of Vorn warships, their black hulls gleaming against the stars. They moved with perfect coordination, like a single organism rather than an armada. In the distance, the flashes of energy weapons marked where Earth's main fleet engaged the front line of the alien force. This is it, Tom said, his mouth dry with tension. Pearl, activate all combat systems. Combat systems active, Pearl responded. Phase shift drive ready. Predictive defense matrix online. Energy reflection system calibrated. Tom opened a channel to the 3 frigates accompanying them. Strike Group Omega, this is Captain Walker. Stay close and follow our lead. Remember, our job is to draw their attention away from the main fleet. Copy that, Persistence, came the response from Captain Harris of the frigate Defiant. Though I still don't understand how that old bucket of yours is going to make any difference. Tom smiled grimly. You're about to find out. Strike Group Omega. Move out. The 4 ships emerged from behind Deimos, accelerating toward the right flank of the Vorn formation. For a moment, they went unnoticed as the alien fleet focused on Earth's main battle group. They haven't spotted us yet, Lisa reported from the sensor station. Their attention is on the main engagement. Good, Tom replied. Let's get closer before we announce ourselves. He turned to Ben at the weapons console. Target the smallest ship on their outer formation. Just a warning shot to get their attention. Ben nodded, locking onto a Vorn vessel that, while small by their standards, was still twice the size of the Persistence. Target locked. Fire. A pulse of energy shot from the Persistence, striking the Vorn ship's shields. The alien vessel shuddered slightly but showed no serious damage. We've got their attention, Mac announced as several Vorn ships broke formation and turned toward Strike Group Omega. 10 ships. No, 15. They're coming our way. That's more than we expected, Tom said, surprised by the strong response to their small attack. Pearl. Analysis. The Vorn appear to prioritize elimination of any threat to their flanks, Pearl responded. This is consistent with their tactical doctrine observed during first contact. The Vorn ships accelerated toward them, weapon systems powering up. All ships, evasive pattern Delta, Tom ordered. Let's see if we can lead them further from the main battle. The 4 human vessels turned and accelerated away, with the Vorn in pursuit. But the alien ships were faster, quickly closing the gap. They're in weapons range, Ben warned. Energy signatures suggest they're preparing to fire. Now we see if this ship lives up to its reputation, Tom said. Pearl, activate phase shift. Phase shift active, Pearl confirmed. The bridge lights dimmed momentarily as the drive engaged. A strange sensation washed over the crew, like being underwater and in air simultaneously. On the main screen, they watched as the Vorn fired, their energy weapons cutting through the space where the Persistence had been a moment before. The shots passed harmlessly through their position. It worked, Lisa exclaimed. They can't hit us. Unfortunately, the same wasn't true for their escorts. One of the frigates took a direct hit, its shields failing immediately under the powerful Vorn weapons. The Courageous is hit badly, Ben reported. They've lost engines and weapons. We need to draw fire away from them, Tom decided. Pearl, drop phase shift. Let the Vorn see us again. As soon as the Persistence reappeared on sensors, the alien ships adjusted their attack, multiple vessels targeting the suddenly visible ship. Predictive defense matrix active, Pearl announced calmly as the Vorn weapons fired. Instead of the standard shields used by modern ships, the Persistence deployed its unique defense system. The matrix analyzed the incoming attacks in microseconds, creating reinforced energy fields precisely where the weapons would hit. The Vorn beams struck these fields and scattered, causing minimal damage to the ship. Matrix effectiveness at 93.7%, Pearl reported. Adapting to their attack patterns, Tom opened a channel to the remaining frigates. Fall back to assist the Courageous. We'll handle the Vorn. Are you insane? Captain Harris replied. There are at least 15 enemy ships out there. Trust me, Tom said. Just get your people clear. As the frigates retreated, the Persistence turned directly toward the Vorn vessels. What's the plan, Captain? Mac asked, his voice tense. Get in close, Tom replied. The energy reflection system needs to be within a certain range to work effectively. The Persistence accelerated toward the largest Vorn ship, dodging weapons fire with quick bursts of the phase shift drive. We're within optimal range, Pearl announced. Energy reflection system active, Tom ordered. As the Vorn flagship fired again, something remarkable happened. The Persistence's systems captured the incoming energy beam, channeled it through specialized conduits, and redirected it back at the Vorn ship, amplified. The alien vessel's shields failed under its own reflected weapon fire, and significant damage rippled across its hull. "It's working," Dave shouted from his station. "Pearl, full attack pattern," Tom commanded. "Use everything this ship has." The Persistence began a complex series of maneuvers, appearing and disappearing with the phase shift drive, predicting and blocking attacks with the defense matrix, and reflecting the Vorn's own energy back at them. The alien ships, confused by these unknown tactics, began firing more frantically. But with each attack, Pearl learned and adapted, making the Persistence increasingly effective. One Vorn ship exploded as its own reflected energy struck a critical system. Another lost propulsion and began drifting. A third, attempting to retreat, was caught by a particularly powerful reflected beam that cut through its command section. On the main Earth Fleet communication channel, confused reports began flowing in. "What's happening to the Vorn right flank? Strike Group Omega is engaging at least 15 enemy vessels." "That's impossible. It's just 4 small ships." Commander Reed's voice cut through the chatter. "Focus on our targets. Let Captain Walker handle his assignment." As the battle continued, more Vorn ships broke from the main formation to deal with the unexpected threat. The Persistence led them on a complex chase, drawing them further from the main battle while continuing to damage any ship that came too close. "We've pulled 23 ships away from the main engagement," Lisa reported with amazement. "That's giving our fleet a fighting chance." "Pearl, status update," Tom requested, gripping his chair as the ship shook from a partial hit. "Phase shift drive operating at 72% efficiency. Predictive matrix at 89%. Energy reflection system fully functional. Overall combat effectiveness remains high." Tom noticed something on the tactical display. The Vorn fleet is changing formation. They're pulling back. The alien ships were indeed regrouping, moving away from both Earth's main fleet and the troublesome Persistence. Their perfect formation had been disrupted, and they appeared to be reassessing their strategy. "They didn't expect this," Max said, his voice filled with wonder. "They've never faced anything like the Persistence before." A communication came through from Commander Reed. "Captain Walker, I don't know how you're doing it, but the Vorn are retreating from the entire sector. Whatever that ship of yours did, it scared them." Tom looked around at his tired but triumphant crew. "It wasn't just the ship, Commander. It was the people who built it, who understood what we would need even before we knew about the threat. And it was this crew who took a chance on an old derelict that everyone else ignored." As the Vorn armada disappeared into deep space, the crew of the Persistence shared looks of disbelief and joy. They had done the impossible. A salvage crew in a forgotten ship had turned the tide against the most powerful enemy humanity had ever faced. "Pearl," Tom asked quietly, "do you think they'll be back?" "Analysis suggests the Vorn will return with adapted strategies," Pearl responded. "However, the Persistence will continue to evolve as well." Captain Miller's vision was correct. Adaptability is the key to survival. Tom nodded, looking at the stars on the view screen. A ship everyone had ignored had just saved humanity, and he knew that this was only the beginning of its story. "Set course for Earth," he ordered. "It's time to show the world what this ship can really do."